So what we're going to do now is to ask, what shape should the International Congregational Fellowship be to respond to the Spirit moving in our time? We could engage with any one of those stories really very powerfully, but it's more, how do we hear those voices now? How do we hear from Euodia in South Africa, listening to the indigenous independent churches? How do we partner with or talk to organizations like Council for World Mission, who are engaged in some very, very profound programs? How do we let Moana, the Spirit, speak through us in responding to this part of the world? We've, up till now, I was in at the beginning of the International Congregational Fellowship, almost. I wasn't in Chislehurst, but I was there thereafter. We have been meeting once every 4 years, roughly, face-to-face meeting in a particular part of the world. A few hundred, maybe a few tens of people get together. When we met online, we were open to much broader international participation. People who politically, people from different parts of the world where they would be endangered by moving and coming to an international gathering, were able to meet. My mum was able to come to it at the age of 90-something, and she got a lot out of it. She sat through those wonderful, very high-powered lectures on congregational history, and she came out at the end, "Oh, that was wonderful," she said. "My head hurts," but she could never in a million years have contemplated coming to a conference. So, and we've been publishing a print journal for, as someone said, about 20 years or so. Nearly all the print journals I'm involved in, academic or church journals, are moving away from print and moving into different forms of communication. For a short while, rather than going into groups, I suggest that we buzz for a while, because that helps get ideas out of people's brains into other people's brains. We're committed to finish by past, aren't we? That's right. Don't look at me like that. I knew all along. But if you'd like to talk to the people around you for, say, 7.5 minutes, and then we'll try and draw ideas together. What's ICF going to do now? How do we respond to what the Spirit is saying to the churches for now and for the future? Talk, talk, talk for a bit.
I'm finally glad I could be here again, masked up and everything. But we were talking about, and I'm reminiscing about all the times that I started way back in Korea. And we used to have planning committees and youth groups in between the 4 years. We would go somewhere else. I think with this day and age and what you've been talking about is that if we have a larger planning group online in between, we can listen to each other, we can get more people on, we can have a presentation certainly or whatever, but to talk about what we're experiencing and what we want to experience in the larger group. Communication has gone not so well in the last few years since COVID as far as what's happening to get out to all of our churches or to get out to all of our regions. But I think you're right. We can get together on Zoom. Yeah. And I think if we do it in between, that would really lift us up.
It would also be a good system, wouldn't it?
Yes, to organize.
Yes. We used to, some of those executive and planning meetings, they used to go to places that couldn't host the whole ICF.
Right.
As well. Okay. And there was, you had your hand up, didn't you? Wendy down here. We're going to make him run around a bit because the next one's right at the back there.
Yep. All good.
So our group came up with a number of ideas. Obviously, we love to have the face-to-face meeting, but maybe there's an alternative. And it dovetails into what you were saying, Patty, where maybe we meet every 4 or 6 years or something like that with a face-to-face meeting, but then there's, let's do a four-year template. And then 2 years later, we have a online meeting. But the 4-year meetings are hybrid so that actually people are able to be with us at the moment that we're meeting. I mean, we're trying to do what we can right now by videotaping, and those things will be set online. But there's nothing quite like feeling the Spirit as it unfolds. A couple other things is maybe creating a space online to meet throughout the year for dialogue. So I don't know what that looks like, but maybe there's a discussion question, a forum place where we're encouraged, an email blast goes out and says, let's talk about for the next month. Maybe there's a common paper that we read from the commission, one of the theologians, and then we get a chance to chew on it together in a format online. We take advantage of the technology. And that local churches are struggling already on their own. So how do we get them to reach out and see beyond open the local eyes to what's beyond? And I think one of the advantages of meetings like this is that you hear, oh, I didn't realize that existed, or that opportunity is available. And awareness, and then for us to go out and teach others what it is that we've experienced here is extremely important. And within the NACCC, we feel like the 1 great hour of sharing is a tool that we need to be mindful of. But even things like yesterday's presentation by Abby about the Feed Our Starving Children opportunity we can take advantage of. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. And there's somebody right at the back. I'm collecting nods and smiles, which is a nice thing to be doing because there are lots of responses to everything that everyone's saying.
Hello. So our group also had a lot of ideas. We had mentioned the hybrid meetings, so I won't go too deep into that. But we also mentioned that we really liked worshiping, and we really appreciated worshiping in kind of a different way. So on Sunday, I don't know about you all, but that's not the way that my church typically does their service. But it was really nice to be able to witness that, participate, and learn from them. And so maybe that's something that we can bring in as well, learning and gaining different perspectives on worship and beliefs and that sort of thing. We also talked about potentially dovetailing meetings, depending on how other countries do their annual meetings. It may be easier to get people together, especially if we do a hybrid conference. So trying to merge those dates. And then also maybe bringing in, I know like we had our missions come up and talk, but also maybe doing a day of service when we're here meeting, or some mission work that we could be doing. I know that the young people in NAPF Hope, that's their favorite part of the trip. And so that might spark some interest in some other populations that may not know about this opportunity with COVID. It's been a long time. So, and then, also just updating the website and having capabilities like maybe doing that forum. I don't know if you've been on our website in a while, but it just needs a little update. So.
It does too.
Yeah.
There's a couple over here. Oh. You can fight each other for the microphone. That's it.
Yeah, thanks. We were talking about representation. I think it's fair to say that everyone in is predominantly Caucasian, but the face of our world is anything but. In fact, it's very diverse, and I think our ICF needs to reflect that. And it's good to have people from CWM here as well, because having a conversation with Peter Crutchley a couple of years back, he was saying that CWM would like to do work in Australia, but they don't have any links there. And then I had to tell him that we have CWM churches there in the form of congregational diaspora churches, which in Australia alone there are about 90 churches there. So the fact that CWM was not aware of that, well, at least Peter Crutchley wasn't aware of that, can be interpreted as quite disappointing. So to have diversity in this group, in the leadership, and also our numbers, it'd be, I think, getting back to the whole spirits and the way the Spirit communicates. it doesn't just communicate through one ethnic group or one particular group. It communicates through everyone. So we need to reflect that and in our decision making as well. And then just further to what Katie was saying, I think we also need not just a website presence, but also social media presence as well, just to get in tune with what the young people are doing. I know we have a Facebook group page that I haven't quite joined yet, but because it's public, I've just sort of skimmed through it, and it was good to see that Mike shared a status last year about our church and how the gospel came to Samoa. But I think I might have been the only person in the CCS that viewed that. But to have a more, sort of profound presence on social media would probably help our cause to spread the word, and also invite a lot of our youth are actually thirsty for things like this. If we were able to find out a bit more about this, and I'm glad that I found out about it, so I can go back to my church and talk about it. But if we had found out more about this before I came, I think I would have brought a couple of youth members as well, for them to experience this, because I think this is we're doing good work here, and I think we need to spread the word.
Well, the big hand is on 6, I'm afraid. So you've got to sort of...
I don't really have much to add. I think it begins with the nominating process to get to that diversity.
So there will need to be some changes. It's coming up out of here, isn't it? It doesn't mean throwing away everything that we're doing at the moment at all. It's past. We said we were committed to finish at past. But we need to keep the conversation going, don't we? So how do we keep the conversation going now? Move online. We're in touch with everybody, are we, that's been at the conference, this conference? Are we in touch with everyone who's been at this conference? So we can communicate online. Is that okay? Yeah, that's what I mean. Yes. Okay, that's great. I think we ought to stop, and I'm really sorry because I've been going by the clock just there. It's fast. Oh, my watch is slower than that. Okay, a few minutes. 2 minutes. So is it? Sorry? Oh yeah, right. But I'm European, despite what whoever it was said.
I think one of the things that impacted our church the most was when the missionaries came to be with us. And then it put a face to situations, and we were blessed with several coming through, including the Stricklands, that came to our church. And boy, that really gives you a real idea of what's going on.
Yes, that's important, that the
Maybe
direction of
ship
flow
them
is not
here.
all one way. Yes. One more point then, as anybody was bursting to say. And if not, it doesn't matter. Okay, because that's terrific. Charles has been taking some notes, so we'll reflect that back and try to follow up and act on some of those things. Thank you very much for this morning.